Cool. All right, we are recording. Sounds good. Um, my name is Alexa Height. I am the Scholarly Communication Librarian at Marion Jeff Bell Library, which means I help faculty and students with research data management, publishing, copyright and open access, things related to the publishing life cycle. I'm also one of the liaisons to the College of Science and Engineering. All of our librarians at Marion Jeff Bell Library have some subject areas that they are liaison to, and that means we are more familiar with the resources related to our subject area. So I don't have a background in science and engineering, but I kind of focus on learning our resources in those areas. Our business librarian, since our participant is a business in the College of Business, is Lisa Lewis, and she is a wonderful librarian, and she's been a librarian for a long time, so she knows all the things. And business area is a little bit, most of the librarians do have, basic understanding of our library resources and can help find things. But often we will have to refer business students to Lisa because she is much more familiar with how those resources work. So to begin, we're going to go over kind of library resources and focus on library resources for graduate students. But if you have any specific questions that I make sure that we address, now would be a really good time. So if you want to spat them out or put them in the chat, and we can kind of go from there, and I'll start sharing my screen and getting into the meat of things.
I'll let you get started and then I'll just ask questions along the way, if that's all right.
Yeah, that is perfectly fine. So I'm going to share my screen, and luckily I'm on my laptop today, so I only have one screen. Here's Baby Yoda. I tend to start by asking undergrads when we have class, how are you feeling today? Just kind of a mental check-in, a way to start the class. And because Baby Yoda is all over the internet, it's kind of how we do. I get a lot of fours no matter what time of day I'm teaching because he's sleepy. But yeah, so that's why I had that up there. Four. Sophia's a four. Yes. I think I'm like a one. Like kind of tired, but I'm doing all right. So we're going to be talking a lot about the library's website and the resources that we have and how to connect to them. So our library website is library.tamucc.edu. If you're on another university website, another TAMUCC website, all of our pages have a top banner and a bottom banner. And if you go to visitor information, you can visit the Marion Jeff Bell Library. I also, for every institution that I've attended or been a part of, if I can't remember something, I'll Google the institution's name and like what it is I'm looking for. So I could never remember the website for Blackboard. So I just Google like Blackboard and the institution name. So that's just, librarians do love to Google. So if I can't find something or I'm not quite certain of a concept, I will often start with Google and get the basic gist of what it is and go from there. So Google really is like everyone's best friend, but a librarian's best friend as well. Perry, have you been to the library? Are you a local student or an online student?
I'm online. I'm in Houston.
You're in Houston. Okay, awesome. So we do have a lot of information about the library building itself. For example, like our open hours are here, but for you, most of the way you'll probably interact with the library is via our website, which is great because we do have a lot of information there. We have this Ask Us section, so I tell all students if like the one thing you take away is how to get in touch with us, then I've done a pretty good job. Because if you forget what we talk about today, you can always come back and ask us later. So we have a lot of ways to get in touch with us. We have chat, phone call, text, email, and then this is how to find your subject librarian. So as I mentioned, we all have our areas of expertise. This is organized alphabetically by college. So Lisa is first. And so there's all kinds of information. So you'll see her areas, her email, and her phone number. I would say in general, because we kind of work funky hours sometimes, we're pretty much Monday through Friday. But you know, people take time off and there are meetings and things. So the best way to get in touch with us is via email. Um, if you want your like subjects librarian, like I said on the homepage, you can chat with us. And when we're about to go to 24/7 chat help. We're not quite there yet. But I'll show you where you can find those hours if you want to see if a librarian or grad student is online to help you. Just since we're recording, I'm going to scroll through. As you can see, College of Liberal Arts, it's a big college with a lot of different things, so there are quite a few librarians here. But you can see here that Lori is listed as the liaison to history. Jennifer has so many subjects, I don't know how she keeps them all straight. Derek has a few, and Laura has a few as well. And then Lisa is currently serving as liaison to philosophy at the moment. And then we have Emily for nursing, and my colleague Eric and I are liaison to science and engineering. And then I am also the liaison to graduate studies, which is why y'all get me today. And Emily Metcalf is the liaison to the University College and Honors Program. If I scroll back up and go back to the library's homepage, um, uh, I will show you if you want to get in touch with us. If we go to this little speaker icon, that's the chat. But this actually takes you to an FAQ page. So a lot of times, you know, especially when students are new, there's lots of questions about like, how do I print? How do I find syllabi? Wi-Fi information. So there might be a quick, if you have one of those like general questions, um, there might be an FAQ. So we have popular, recent, and featured. You can type your question, and we have tags for things, so computers, Wi-Fi technology. So based on your question, you might be able to find it here. If you can't find it and you want to get in touch with us, again, we have the chat function, calling, texting, emailing, and you can contact your librarian. So if you forget who your librarian is, you can click on that. Our Ask Us services, so our chat services and things vary, our hours vary a little bit different than circulation, so when the library is physically open. So our hours at the moment are listed here, and this varies by if we're in a semester or if we're in an interim period or you know, the summer, we're pretty much Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. But like I said, we are about to go soon, hopefully very soon, about to go to 24/7 chat help. So we will have support in that area. I'm going to go back to the library homepage. So that's Ask Us, so how to get in contact with us. A few more things on the library's homepage before we get into the nitty-gritty. How do I find resources? We do have tech in the library. So if you are a on-campus person or you come to campus, there might be some things there to help you out. We do have a resource page specifically for our various patron groups. So we have graduate students, and this page kind of breaks things down a little bit. So library spaces, using the library, so checking things out, finding course reserves, how to borrow stuff from another library, which we'll go into more detail. Getting it just, especially if you're not an on-campus student, if there is a book or something that we have physically in the library and you want to get a hold of it, but you can't drive from Houston just to visit the library, totally understandable. And we have, out-of-state students as well. This system works really well, and they will scan what you need and get it to you via email through that process. And then for research, so this is where a lot of graduate students heavily use the library's resources. Again, that Ask Us section, finding materials, databases. We're going to talk about research guides, how to find journals, and then scholarly communication. So for our graduate students, depending on the program that you're in, most graduates will publish a thesis or a dissertation. And so sometimes they have questions about copyright and publishing, and I am here to help on that as well. So that's kind of like quick links if you forget on the homepage where to access things. And we're going to get into this section in just a moment, but we also have events. So this is just something to mention. Right now, most, if not all, of our events are virtual. So we do have virtual workshops. The I Create Lab is doing some awesome, they're in person, but they're teaching things virtually. So attendees attend virtually. We have these awesome book talks, which have been a pretty good hit, pretty big hit. And we just have some news and things there. And then down here, we have more ways to connect with the library, get in touch with the library. We have a blog. This is computer availability. We have a feedback box. So if you want to give us anonymous feedback, have at it. We are also on social media because who isn't these days? But the most important thing is this YouTube channel for this banner down here. We do have a lot of tutorials. So there is a recorded, shortened version of what we're doing today on that YouTube channel. And there are also like subject specific YouTube tutorials. And so that might be worth checking things out as well. And we have some of the videos scattered throughout our website, so you might not have to go to our YouTube channel to find those videos, but they may be beneficial. So what we have here in terms of like getting access to materials, we have the Get Started with a Quick Search. What Quick Search does is searches everything that the library has access to, and this is electronic information as well as physical books, newspapers, microfilm, DVDs. We used to load out board games. We're not doing that for health reasons right now, but we do have all kinds of things. So a lot of times students will see this and then just start searching, which is totally fine. It's a great place to start, especially with if you're not 100% sure where you want to go. It can help narrow things down. So it's like Google for the library because you're searching everything the library has access to, but it's not the entire internet necessarily. It's not as smart as Google. So whereas I often will like type my entire question into Google, um, a what I do not suggest that you do that with quick search. It's not that smart. So to get started with a quick search, I would suggest using key terms or phrases. Perry, if you have an example, we could definitely use that. Otherwise, I'll probably just use a common one that I've used in classes before.
Since my concentration is in healthcare, typically I start off typing in healthcare.
Okay. Yeah, so healthcare is a great, I actually have to click in the box to do that. Healthcare is it's one of those terms that it means so many things and can mean so many different things depending on context. As you can see, when I clicked in the box, I got some more options, and I do even have this other more search options box, which would take me to a slightly different page and has a lot more options. And I can quickly refine my search. So if you know you're looking for, here's my cat, articles and books, you can refine your search like right away before you even start searching. And you can also show only peer-reviewed or full text. So sometimes this full text, we will have we have access to databases where things are indexed. Um, and so we don't necessarily have like the full text of the article. But what we'll have is everything but that article. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So sometimes, especially for undergrads who leave things to the last minute, they really want full text online because they don't want to have to come to the library, or they don't want to have to wait for it to be to receive it through Interlibrary Loan. So they're narrowing down what's out there. So, you might not get the best research or the best whatever it is you're looking for on the subject you're looking for, but you can get it right now, which a lot of times, everyone hits those deadlines where they just want it right now. I searched just for the two words healthcare with doing nothing else to narrow my search. And as you can see, there is a ton of results, over 20 million. So I see here cancer care, and then meeting psychosocial health. So healthcare isn't together. So to narrow things down just real quick, I can just do healthcare in quotes, and that will at least have those two words show up in a record next to each other. And that already cut things in half, which is great. It's still a ton, and I'm not going to sit here and read through 10 million. I don't think you could physically do that with time and how long humans live. But it's a place to start. As you might have seen before I narrowed things down, I had it there too. Sorry. I do have database recommendations. So databases can be a really great way to kind of jump into something that's already more narrowed, and more subject specific. And we'll talk about databases more in just a little bit. So I can narrow things down in a lot of ways using the filters we have on the left. These filters are kind of like if you're shopping on Amazon, it's kind of choosing those things. So depending on what the purpose of my research is, I'm probably going to hit peer reviewed. I want literature that has been reviewed by peers in the field of what the article or the book is talking about. I am going to narrow down to journal article because that will narrow things down for me as well. Depending on the subject, sciences for sure, and things like business, you probably want something pretty recent. So if I said peer reviewed, this is how long ago it's been published. So if I say last 5 years, this information was published within the last 5 years. And that's a pretty easy way to narrow things down. As I see over here, I have some subject areas that can help me potentially narrow things down. Like, okay, I am looking for public health, for example. That can be a way to narrow things down. Law, for example. So you can narrow things down using these subject headings or subject areas. And what we would have to do, for example, okay, so economics. I want to narrow it down to economics. So we have to select what we want to include and then hit apply. If you wanted to keep everything except for agriculture, you could put an X through agriculture and then still hit apply. What you could also do to just narrow things down, what is it about healthcare that you're looking for? Are you looking for healthcare and legislation? Are you looking for healthcare and COVID, the example we all use for everything? So if I were to do that, I could use those subject areas or subject headings, or I could say healthcare and um, legislation. I can also do, this is where searching becomes almost like algebra. So healthcare, the quotations told the database, I'm looking for these two words to show up together. By putting and in all caps, I'm saying I'm looking for these two things that I'm linking. So it's like a plus sign. Um, but I'm not looking for the word and to show up in my results. By saying legislation or law with caps or, I'm saying I want the word legislation or the word law to show up, but it doesn't have to be both. So it's kind of substitution. This or this is okay. And by putting them in parentheses, it's that algebra thing, right? Like legislation or law is by itself and healthcare in quotations. And so searching that might help me narrow things down, which it definitely did. Again, we're searching in quick search. So this is everything the library has access to. Um, and so it's going to be quite a lot. So it can be a great place to start. We also have a lot of other ways to narrow things down. So like I mentioned, we have databases and we have research guides. So, and then of course we have journals as well. Databases so we subscribe to these databases. Sometimes they're full text. Sometimes, like I mentioned, they will have everything but the article. And we can talk about how to get that article when we get there. You can narrow down by subject. So if you were looking for business, you could also look for healthcare. You might be looking for nursing and health sciences potentially, or law, depending on what aspect of healthcare you're looking into. So if I look at business, we have 42 databases. So I can't remember how many databases we're up to at this point. 350. That's a lot of databases. So I kind of want to narrow it down somehow, and going to the subject might help me. You might have noticed over here we have this little pop-up guy, and that is the Ask Us section. So depending on what page you are in the library, this bot will pop up for you. So if you're having a hard time finding what it is you're looking for, you can always ask to chat with a librarian or grad student, depending on who's online at the moment. I'm going to say no, thank you. We do have these best bets over here, which is kind of like these are try these ones first. They're ordered alphabetically, as you can see, and then if we scroll down, there's a lot of these that are best bets. But if you scroll down, we also have even more. So if I go to, let's go to Business Source Complete. And so if you're off campus, or if you never come to campus, once you leave the libraries page, like I did when I clicked on that title, you will probably be asked to log in, and you can log in using your Duo authentication, what you use to log into Blackboard, everything associated with the university, essentially. So once I'm here, it's similar. Most databases have a lot of the same options as each other. So this is similar, it just looks different from what we did in the library's quick search. So if I do the same thing, healthcare, before I narrow down anything else, I have more options to narrow things down here. But before I do, I just kind of want to get a sense of what does this database have to offer me. Um, the thing I tell all students, undergrads and graduates, is that searching in different databases, you kind of have to get a feel for the lingo that the database has, and kind of what they have to offer. So you might be super familiar with the database, after three searches and you know how much you can put in or how much you have to, start broad and then go more narrow. Because sometimes students will, type in their research question and they go, well, this database has nothing for me. Um, but again, it's more keyword searching that they have to do. So I try to start pretty broad. If I know that, in quick search, I know healthcare is going to come up with a lot of stuff. So I might add a few more keywords right off the bat. But I've never used this database before, so I'm just going to start with healthcare in quotations because I know I'm interested in those two words showing up together. And of course, I have 3 million results showing. Databases can be really awesome because some of them have what's called a thesaurus. Sometimes it's called subject terms instead. So you can actually learn how the database is terming some things. So for example, if I go to this first result, whether or not it's related to my search, if I open that page, click on the link and open the page, I can see from here a lot of information, right? I don't see the PDF, but I can learn a lot about the database itself just by doing this. So I see that they have assigned some subject terms. So this is similar to the library quick search that we did where we had subject areas. This is depending on the database and how it works. Sometimes subject terms are offered by the authors. The authors will say these are our subject terms or keywords. And sometimes a database will have someone go through everything and pick out keywords. So it's not always 100% accurate because, if I am a librarian doing this kind of work, I might not be an expert. So I might think it's about Medicaid and Medicare, and it turns out it really isn't. Those are just like the hot words. So I thought that that's what it was about. But it can really help your search because if you say, okay, yes, I am definitely looking at health insurance exchanges. If I open up a new tab, again, I'm just looking in, it blocked me. Well, that was rude. I guess okay, I just clicked on it. This will search this entire database for every article, periodical, whatever the database has to offer for that keyword. So supposedly all of these articles and newspaper articles and things are all have health insurance exchanges as a keyword. You might notice that up here it says DE with the um, that term in quotations. Not sure where they got DE from, but that means that I am searching the database for this subject term. Again, if I can start in a couple of ways. I can browse like we did. I just started with healthcare and then I found a keyword I really liked and then searched that way. Or I could use the thesaurus and see, okay, I'm looking for healthcare. And it tells me, oh, I should use medical care. And a lot of databases are structured this way where they have specific terminology. Um, Over here, I can click the term to display the details. It didn't do that, but what it did do is selected explode. So this is, remember when we were in quick search and I said legislation or law? This is doing that for me with medical care. So if I selected that, and if I hit add at the top here, what we'll see at the top is it's going to search for DE subject term medical care or community health services, or so it's all of these different terms that would take me a really long time to, find those terms and then add myself, and it's automatically doing this for me. So if I was going to do a search for healthcare and, let's say, legislation, to use my same example, I can do the same thing with legislation and hit this explode button over here. Down here, I'm going to search and. So I'm going to select and then hit add, because like in our original search and quick search, I'm looking for healthcare, all those terms to healthcare. I just need one of those terms to show up somewhere. And I want one of these search terms for legislation to show up as well. So that's why I'm looking for and to then add that. So unfortunately, we can't see this very well, but if we scroll down, I do have and legislation or delegated legislation or etc. So now I'm going to hit search and see what we can get. So this narrowed my search down quite a lot from that original. I think I had a few 100,000. I now have 421. That's still a lot, but what I can do is limit using, excuse me, my filters over here on the left. So what we've done so far is just find some search terms, and now we can narrow things down. So if I want scholarly or peer-reviewed articles, we can see how much that narrows things down. That will narrow things down in terms of if it's scholarly peer-reviewed, it's not going to be a newspaper article because those aren't necessarily considered peer-reviewed, right? They might do a lot of research, they might be very knowledgeable, but it's not the same rigorous review as what's peer-reviewed. Again, I can narrow by date. This just does it a little differently. But I could say, okay, everything from 2000 to 2020, because we're at the beginning of the year of 2021, we probably don't have peer-reviewed research published yet. I mean, there's, 2 months and 10 days. So some things will be published, but it's saying 2020. And then you can kind of use these source types. So academic journals, if you know you want an academic result, you can narrow down that way. That doesn't get rid of a lot here. You might have seen up here we have, I think that's Russian. Some databases will let you narrow by language. This narrows by geography. So, if you're focused on healthcare in the US, you might want to just look at the United States and get rid of Great Britain and Europe. Or, as you can see, Alabama is included. So some databases might have information on a specific state if that's how narrow you're going in your research. So once we've kind of narrowed down, 94 is pretty good. I can probably scroll through some things here and find some related articles to my search terms. So, okay, legislating for universal access. Let's say this is one I want to learn more about just based on the title. I can again go to the full record. This is called a detailed record. And I can see the subject terms, the keywords, and I can read the abstract. And this says abstract from author. So the authors are saying, this is what my article is about. I will also say that depending on the database, I don't think this happens as frequently anymore, but sometimes the author would write the abstract before they wrote their paper, and they wouldn't change it at the time of publication. So, they might have submitted the abstract, and then over the time of writing their paper, some things have changed, but they don't update their abstract. So it's something to keep in mind. The abstract isn't always 100% accurate. I do have some more information. I know who the authors are affiliated with. I know the full word count. I know the DOI. So I can probably find this through the journal, but I want to read it, right? So over here on the left, we have get full text at TAMUCC. If I click this, this will hopefully tell me that I have access to it somewhere else in a different database. So here I see, okay, it is available online. Unfortunately, this link does nothing, which frustrates so many students. And I agree, it's dumb. But what happens is sometimes we have a lot of different databases that give us the same articles. The way publishers bundle things is that we actually end up paying for things multiple times, which is really frustrating. And movement is happening to stop doing that. But that's what we do. So sometimes it's only one, so why it can't just take me to that page, I don't know. But often people say, oh, available online, and then they get stuck on the same page. So if I click on this, get full text from, wherever I'm getting it from, again, at this point, because we were in a database and went back, you shouldn't be asked to log in. But if you were searching in quick search and then clicked on something to get, you might then be asked to log in. I'm just checking the time. Okay. So here, this page should have taken me to what I was looking for. Unfortunately, I grabbed that DOI. DOI, if you don't know, which a lot of folks don't always know, stands for Digital Object Identifier. So it's kind of like an ISBN for a book, but it's for a digital object. So often it's for an article. A DOI can be applied to a data set. So if authors have a data set and they're referencing it in their article, they can, rather than like, here's where you find our data, they can say, here's the DOI. And then with that link, because it is a stable URL, you should be able to find the research. So even though that get full text didn't take me to the page, copying and pasting that DOI did take me to where I can get the article. This icon here, this like unlocked link, means that this article is open access. So although I found it through the university, I don't actually have to be affiliated with the university to get a hold of it. So sometimes we don't, we can't pay for everything, but there might be an open access version of what you're looking for. And as actually, if you can see this over here, I have this little green unlock icon. And this is it's telling me that it is open access. So if I was on this page, don't know why it should have shown up here so that I could have gotten to it. But anyway, that's something to keep in mind, that even if the university doesn't have full text access, there might be an open access version, or if nothing else, we can order you a copy. So this wasn't the case here, but if we were in a result that we didn't have full text access, it will check our other databases for you, which is great. But if we don't have full text access, you can order it through Interlibrary Loan. Most of the time, it will auto-populate a lot of information for you, so you don't have to go to Interlibrary Loan, type in the title, or copy and paste all the things. So I was hoping to get an example of something we don't have access to, but this is great that we have access to so much information. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, but if you have any questions at this point, please feel free. And I'm going to take a sip of water.
Most of my research I've done has been through the quick access, and I had called in and talked to a librarian and said, "What's the best way to approach it?" And they said, type in a single word first, and like the healthcare or marketing, whatever category I was looking for. I found that screening it down to journals was most helpful, and then once I got into that, then I would start specifying new words. You helped me by showing me that typing in large and helped me add to it or doing an or gave me options on words, which was helpful. Is that a faster way? Because you talk about databases, but I don't know one database from another. Now you pointed out that there's best or optionals that are showing you as best ones, but again, I I don't know one database from the other. Is it better to just go general search or is it better to go to a database search?
That's a great question. And honestly, I think the answer, unfortunately, is it depends. Um, I would I would start with quick search and see where you get. But if even if you start adding, keywords and narrowing down by journal articles, peer reviewed things like that, if you're still getting a lot of results, I would suggest using a database. The reason I actually picked Business Source Complete is because even though I haven't used this particular database, I am familiar with EBSCO host databases. And so I had, previous knowledge of, I'm sure I can get kind of a broad general idea of and I'll get results. So sometimes depending on I help students and do research all the time in areas I'm not familiar with. So I will often start with the databases and narrowing by subject and picking one of these. But I will also, the next thing we're going to talk about is research guides, and that might also be helpful as well to kind of like where to get started with research. So on the homepage, we have research guides, and these are they're kind of like mini websites that librarians have put together. Sometimes they are for a specific class if we're asked to teach a class and there's a specific assignment that students are going to have to complete afterwards. So we'll kind of like, here are the resources you're going to need to do this assignment. We have general ones. So for example, we have them organized by subject. We also have all guides. So for things that don't really fit in a subject area, like for example, over here on the right, we have featured guides. We have Women's History Month. We have some resources for racial justice resources. Might be some else, but if I'm like, how did the library categorize this? I could just go to all guides and then sift through that. But there's a lot of guides. So for subjects, if I know I'm doing research in business, for example, so we have this class code. So clearly Lisa has put this together for a particular class. And then we have business research guides. So almost in every subject, we should have just a general biology research guide, just something broad, but still subject specific. So if we go to business research guide, we will have, so Lisa's narrowed this down, I think. I'd have to like double check, but typically for the guides that I manage in science and engineering, I try to narrow this down even more from that best bets because that was a long list. Um, and so this might be all the same. She might think that all of these are the best, but it is kind of a most popular business databases. And again, that business source complete is listed right there. We do have these little blurbs. So sometimes if I'm if I'm doing research in engineering, for example, I was doing something the other day where I was doing mechanical engineering. So I went to the databases page and then I did like control find and then I just typed in a word. So that kind of helped me too. So if I'm looking for what databases can help me with taxation, something pretty broad but still related to business research. I can see that maybe this one will help me, or maybe Checkpoint will help me. So that's another way to where do I start with this pretty big list of databases? Again, you can also talk to Lisa and ask her, this is when I'm searching. Um, and we are more than happy to do kind of more tailored research with you when we know your topic ahead of time. We can kind of do the background stuff and then we can kind of talk it through. Um, and especially when you get to that thesis or dissertation, you're trying to write your lit review or you're trying to write your proposal, and you need that background research, we can definitely meet with you one-on-one. Right now, we're doing it mostly virtually, but we can share our screen like I'm doing here. We can also have you share your screen, things like that. And then Lisa has some other, and a lot of our guides on different subjects have this like breaking it down. If you want to find articles, okay, she has these as the most important three. She also has broken it down with other useful databases. And then we have interlibrary loan information, which again, when you're a student or a faculty or staff, as long as you're affiliated with a university or some research institution, don't pay for materials. Um, Students pay a lot of money in tuition, and the library pays a lot of money to have access to things. And something that libraries started before the internet was sharing resources. So if we don't have it, if we don't own it, or we don't subscribe to it, we can borrow it from another library. Right now, a lot of that is digital. Like I said, we can usually get you like a scanned copy of something if it's in print. And it's pretty quick. So our interlibrary loan office pretty much works Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So like I tell students, like if you're working to the last minute, kind of expect I think they say 3 to 5 days. They say, okay, material, a few days. Um, I've had, on a business day, like a Monday, if I submit something in the morning, I will often have that in my inbox by the afternoon. It gets emailed to me, or I get an email notification, and then I have to go and log in and download it. But don't ever pay for research materials while you're a student or affiliated. So just don't do that. Um, so that's my little interlibrary loan rant. So we have, yes, most important databases, and then she has some others as well. And that's just general business article databases. She also has some extra tabs. So this is where Lisa is definitely much more of the expert than I am in terms of business research, where I don't know why I would need to look. I mean, I guess I understand, but if you need to look for certain things, she has these extra tabs which will help you. So if you're doing a SWOT analysis, um, that's a common thing I've heard referred to. If you're doing certain country research, um, there's, different resources for what you might be doing. And then she has, a link to another guide for international business if that's what you're doing, industry analysis, accounting. So research guides can be very helpful. It can also, especially if you aren't familiar with the um, the resources the library might have for what you are searching. Um, a research guide is a great place to start. Most of the time, if I'm helping a student out on chat, again, that's the kind of like they just need to get started with research. I will just go to a research guide if it's not my area of expertise, or I haven't answered the same question 3 times that day because all the students are finishing their assignment on whatever topic it is. So yes, quick search is a great place to start. A database can be a great place to start if you know what database, but research guides, if you're not sure, might be able to help narrow things down from the get-go. The next thing I'm going to show you all, I think we only have 10 minutes left. I'm really sorry. I kind of talked a lot. The next, probably the last thing we're going to talk about are journals. I'm going to warn you, most of the time when I'm in this browser, when I click the journals button, something hinky goes off. So it might, like the screen might flash. So if you need to look away from the screen, do that. And if that does happen, I will open up a different browser where that won't happen. And I'll explain why that issue happens. It's kind of a me problem, not this page problem. So I'm opening the page. Let's hope it just works and is nice to me. It did this. I like warned students. Okay, so it's being bad. Okay. I'm gonna open up Edge. For some reason, I can't figure out how to download Microsoft onto this laptop, but it's okay. Okay, so yeah, we'll talk about why that issue happens after I show you journals. Okay, we'll try to keep this brief. Okay, sorry, I keep saying okay. Have to log in. And tell me, because I haven't logged in on this browser. All the lovely things. I love logging into the same things over and over and over again every day. Safety. Okay. So this journals button takes you to what's called browsing, which is something we subscribe to, but it's a different way of organizing our journals. And so this is really great for graduate students in particular because you can kind of keep track and keep on top of the research in your area. So what it does, so if you have, you can browse, but you can also save things by subject. So if I go into business and economics, at this point, I'm just looking at all of the different journals that we have access to through TAMUCC. So this isn't the best way to browse necessarily, but once you know, okay, what are, this could be like, what are the top business journals in accounting? You can browse that way. It's not great in terms of I want to browse for articles. It's kind of what are the big journals out there. Once you have that, once you have like, oh, I recognize this journal name, this is a big deal, what you can do is create your own journal library digitally. So this website has an app for if you have a smartphone for iOS and Android. So you can create your own digital shelf on your phone or your tablet or the internet and keep it. So when I logged in through TAMUCC, so this is my library, potentially. Right now, it's everything we have access to. But if I want to curate my library, I can go to my bookshelf, I can log in, and I can curate things. So for example, they have medicine and they have JAMA, which is a big one, and nature and science. If I want to keep on top of what's being published in my area so that I know, what research is happening, or you're about to submit something and you need like the most up-to-date article on your area, you can, it's kind of like podcasts where you can subscribe to it and then get notifications or like get the article or get that issue of that journal in your inbox, or a notification, and then you go to the app or you go to online if you're reading it on your laptop. So this is something that faculty really like. They can keep on top of the research that's being published in their area. It's also something that I talk to grad students about. I don't really talk to undergrads about it unless it's like, your professor tells you to search for this journal. It's a way to do that. Um, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to go back to Chrome, and we're going to talk really briefly because we have 5 minutes about Zotero, which is a citation management system. So if you are going to be writing a thesis or a dissertation, Zotero is a great way to keep articles organized. So I opened up the desktop app. There's also a web version, so if you don't want to download it or you're working on a tablet or something, there is a web version. It is free. It's free up until a certain capacity. I have yet to reach that capacity, so I don't really know what it is. But it's a great way to organize your literature, your personal literature. Like I'm reading these articles. So as you can see, I have my library with things that I'm interested in or projects I'm working on with folks. Um, and this can create your bibliography. For me, it's kind of a way to keep track of my to be read articles. Um, and it's really easy. So if we go back to Chrome, and this is the reason that for some reason journals doesn't like to do. It's still trying to do it. So if we go back to, oh, okay. It's like, I have a chat. Okay, so this journal, for example, I might download this PDF and then I might have it downloaded into, articles, a folder. But if I want to organize the metadata around that, what I can do is use Zotero. So Zotero has a browser plugin, which is the thing that causes browsing to freak out. Don't know why. I really should look into it. I just haven't gotten around to it. I apologize. So if I want to, keep track of the title and all of the information, what I can do is use that browser plugin and save it to Zotero. And it's going to save to the last folder I was in my Zotero library. So sometimes if you have a PDF, it will download the PDF with it. So it can be an all-in-one keep track of things. But if you say request an article through ILL, you can download the metadata and then when that ILL article comes in, you can say, why did I want to read this? And go to your Zotero library and find that information, and it will hopefully be in the folder related to the research of why you wanted to read it. So this is the article that I just downloaded the information for, legislating. And over here, so it's highlighted. It tells me here briefly the title, the authors. This little blue dot means I do have the PDF in my Zotero library. And then over here, I have all of the information that I need. So there is a lot more to talk about with Zotero, but just based on time, that's like the very brief information that I'm going to share with you. It's a great way to keep track of your articles. It's also a great way to create your citations and your bibliography when you get to that point. And we do have tutorials, videos on how to do that. Or if you want like a one-on-one session, I'm happy to help walk you through Zotero. Again, it's free. Go to zotero.org and you can download it and download the browser, plug in the browser extension with whatever browser you're using. And it's pretty straightforward. But again, if you have questions about anything, I am here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I can always reshare if we have questions and want to go to a certain resource.
I'm good. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. It was helpful.
I'm glad it was helpful. The last thing I want to do is